Hi everyone, welcome to Girl in the Green Wellies. It's a gorgeous spring day, so we're going to talk about peas. As always, don't forget to give us a big thumbs up if you like what you see, and don't forget to subscribe in the link below. It's a beautiful spring day today, and nothing says spring better than sowing some peas. So today we're going to show you when to sow them, how to sow them, how to give them a helping hand, when to harvest them, and best of all, when to eat them. Sowing seeds is best done in the spring. I always get a little bit nervous about when to sow them. I always want to start them really early, but the best time really to start them is when the soil starts to warm up. So the further north you get, it's going to be slightly later than down south. So on the seed packets, you'll see it may say to start sowing them end of February, beginning of March. As we're based up in the northeast, it's going to be more like the end of March, early April. If you do want an earlier crop, you can start growing them indoors in modules at the end of February, beginning of March. But I generally just tend to plant them straight in the soil when it's a gorgeous day like today. Sowing into seed trays or into a length of gutter is really easy. All you would do is fill compost in your modules or along the full length of the gutter and just put your seeds straight in. In modules like this, I would get maybe 2 or 3 seeds per pod in a length of gutter. You can space them out, but generally I would just scatter them all the way across. You're going to get a good crop as long as there are a couple of centimetres in between each seed. You're gonna have a really good yield. Alternatively, if you want to sow directly into the ground, very simple to do. Just prepare the bed a good couple of weeks in advance, adding lots of organic matter, fresh compost or kitchen scraps, and then just sow the seeds directly. Again, as long as you've got a trench of about 10 centimetres wide, I would just scatter the seeds in, cover them up and give them a good water. So when your peas are growing, you're going to need to give them a little bit of a helping hand. There's 2 different types of peas that will grow. You'll have climbing varieties, which can grow 6 to 7 feet. So you will need something really quite tall for those. You do also have dwarf varieties, although you think it's going to be quite small, they can grow up to 4 feet. So the types of help and type of support that you're going to give for each variety is going to be slightly different. I like to grow Hurst green shaft. These will grow up to 5 to 6 foot, so the support that I'm going to give them will be quite tall. I'm going to build a pea frame with wire chicken mesh just to give it a little bit of extra support, a bit more sturdiness to it, because they are going to be quite tall. I don't want them to topple over. Smaller varieties, or the dwarf varieties, you can use what they call pea sticks, which is just a fancy name for twigs or anything that you can stick in the ground that the peas will grab onto. Traditionally, people use raspberry canes, you can use blackberry canes, or you can just use twigs that you find in the garden. But remember, you will have to stick them in the ground and they will need to give that support. Harvesting the peas is fantastic. There's nothing better than getting your hand around a nice pod of peas, pulling it open, popping it open and eating them fresh from the pod. They taste really sweet. The harvest time for your pea varieties will vary again from when you're doing early varieties, second earlies or a main crop. Generally, early varieties take about 12 weeks to be mature. So anything from 3 months onwards, you can start picking those. Second earlies will be varied from around 14 weeks, main crops from about 16 weeks. You can harvest the peas before they mature and have them like Mange 2 varieties. I haven't tried that yet. I'm going to try it this year. I do love Mange 2 in stir fries, and rather than growing 2 different varieties, I'm just going to pick them slightly earlier. The benefit of picking them slightly earlier, or regular picking with peas, is that will encourage the plant to produce more flowers and more pea pods, so you will extend your harvest. When you harvest the peas, pick them from the ground up over, because the pods at the bottom will mature faster than the pods at the top. The whole purpose of growing your own vegetables is to eat them. So I always think that eating them as fresh as possible is going to give you the best flavour. Peas are great. You can pick them and eat them within seconds. They will taste so delicious. There's nothing better than a fresh pea, fresh from the pod. You will get a good yield, so there's nothing wrong in having them while you're on the plot as a little healthy snack. I love pea risotto. Using the peas in risotto gives it a really, really sweet, earthy flavour. You can put the fresh peas in pasta, in stir fries, use them straight in salads. If you do end up with a big harvest, you can boil them just for a few minutes, just to cook them slightly, and then freeze them. They will keep in the freezer for a good few months, and you will extend the length of time you have to enjoy them. So the variety of pea I'm growing this year is the Hurst Green Shaft. It's a double podded variety, which again gives you more pea for your pod. It's gorgeous, so let's go in and get them planted. Peas are scramblers, so they're going to need something to climb up. Last year we gave our cherry tree a really good trim back, and we kept all the twigs and branches to use around the allotment for supports and for any of the projects that we have coming up. This is the A-frame that we've made for ours using the branches from the cherry blossom. We also saved parts of branches like this. Now if you're growing a dwarf variety of pea, this type of stick would be great to go along the row. These will provide lots of little places for the pea tendrils to hold on to as they climb. Because the variety of pea that I'm growing this year is climbing, a tall variety, we've made the pea frame, like I said, out of the branches from the cherry tree. It was dead easy to make. All we did was stuck the branches in the ground, tied them at the top. We used shorter sections of branches to make a frame and a support brace so that it will be really sturdy. We're using wire this year instead of netting. It's entirely your preference for what you use. I wanted to use wire this year because I do feel that with a taller variety it can get quite heavy, and obviously we're hoping for a bumper crop of peas, so I want to give all the plants the best support that I can. A couple of weeks ago we prepared the bed. It looks slightly different. I wanted to try a no-dig bed, but to get the volume of compost I would really need would cost too much. So what we did is dug down, sieved all the soil, got rid of all the perennial weeds. It's really bad for bindweed being right next to the pot. So we got as much bindweed as we could out. We lay cardboard all the way across, good thick layer will stop any other weeds coming through. And then we put the sieved soil mixed with compost that we did get back into the trench. You can also add kitchen scraps. That'll give the seeds some really, really good nutritious food to keep them going. We're going to get started and dig the trench. So the seeds just look like normal seeds. We've got a straggler jumping over the side. Let's just get that. So we're going to just use a trowel and dig a hole or a trench just along the base of the support. Then we're just going to spread seeds in. There are loads of peas in here. One of the things you may notice if you sow directly, mice love the seeds. So I always plant more than I think I'm going to need. It's fine to share the seeds with other creatures. Don't want to have them all. There we go. So we've got a good amount of seeds all the way through the trench. There we go. And we're just going to cover that back up. Super simple. Well, that's both sides of the frame planted with pea seeds. All that's left to do now is water them in. If you are wondering about why we've got forks and knives sticking out, we're not growing knives and fork trees. We're not having them there for when the peas are ready. We've actually got a problem with cats leaving little presents all over our freshly dug beds. So we're trying something to try and keep them off, but we'll do another video about pests in the future. So let's get them watered. So there we are, we're all done. That's an easy peasy guide to growing your own peas. If you've got any comments or if you want to share any tips, please put them in the comments below. Don't forget, if you like what you've seen, give us a big thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Happy gardening, folks.